I worry that we suffer blindness due to over-familiarity with Manet's 1882 painting, A Bar at the Folies-Bergère. It's not so much that we no longer see the remarkable and curious elements of the painting, but maybe now we see it as banal, mundane, or even we no longer see the painting at all. So today I want to reacquaint you with some of the wonders of this painting. I want to consider some of the ways of approaching this painting and maybe awakening a sense of wonder for the moment captured in Paris of 1882. Welcome to Articulate. My name is Daniel Trump and I think wonder is a good place to start. Wonder has many meanings, and this painting gives me much to wonder about. I wonder whether that's a mirror or a window in the background. And if it's a mirror, I wonder why the reflection is a bit squiffy. Things are shown in that mirror are a bit off. I'll come on to that soon. I wonder why I can't see the man shown in the mirror in front of me. I wonder whether I'm the man in the mirror. I wonder whether real life is reflected in that mirror. Or is it an abstracted, maybe idealised version of life? Most of all, I wonder about this woman's expression. I wonder where she's looking, what she's looking at. I wonder what she's thinking about. I wonder where her head is at. All of these things add up to give me a true sense of wonder about this painting. The more time I spend with it, the more remarkable this work is. Okay, I want to break a rule of good art history by getting straight into artistic intention and context. There's a contextual detail relating to this painting that entirely changes my interpretation of this painting. I think that it will change your interpretation of the painting as well if you don't already know this detail. Now, if you don't want your interpretation of the painting changed, you should probably fast forward a few minutes. Anyway, enough waffling. A Bar at the Folies-Bergère was the last picture painted by Manet. He died less than a year after completing this painting, and when he made this painting, he knew that his remaining time was limited. So let's take a closer look at Manet's last gift to us. First of all, I'm fascinated by the name of this painting. It's called A Bar at the Folies-Bergère, but I think it's so much more than just a bar. Primarily, it's a portrait of a barmaid at the Folies-Bergère, but Manet didn't name the painting after her, nor tell us her name. I mean, we subsequently know that her name is Suzon, and Suzon is not incidental to this painting. She's not a prop added to make the bar look interesting, like women are used at car shows or in adverts for washing machines for decades. No, Suzon is placed centrally. She's the dominant element in the painting, and she's got the most amazing, enigmatic expression. Is she looking to our right? Is she looking at anything at all? She seems to be deeply lost in her thoughts. If she were incidental to this painting, Manet would not have drawn our attention to her by giving her this expression that cries out for our engagement and interpretation. Now, behind Suzon, in the mirror, is the life of the Folies-Bergère. This wonderfully busy, lively social scene. Of course, we must have a look at the trapeze artist's legs hanging down into the picture frame, a wonderfully whimsical detail by Manet. But we also find people seeing and being seen. There's the lively chatter, the freedom and the excitement of social nightlife in late 19th century Paris. And then we contrast this with Suzon. She doesn't seem to be engaged in fun, flirtatious freedom. I mean, look at her immediate surroundings: beer, champagne, other alcoholic spirits, beautiful flowers, fresh fruit. These are the accoutrements of pleasure, possibly of hedonistic consumption, but all of that contrasts so sharply with Suzon. She certainly does not appear to be pleased nor pleasing others. She does not appear to be taking pleasure in her position nor engaged in hedonistic consumption. She is neither seeing nor particularly wanting to be seen. And let's look at the man and the woman reflected in the mirror. If this is a reflection of Suzon, then it's a strange perspective, as we are looking at her From straight on, we would expect her reflection to be directly behind her. She would be obscuring most of her own reflection, but Manet painted the reflection of the woman on the right side of the painting. Now, some have suggested that Manet made a mistake. I very much doubt that such a skilled draftsman could make such a major mistake. I think this is a very careful composition. The placement of that man and woman is intentional, and it's pure genius. But is this a reflection of Suzon? I mean, most people seem to think so. Virtually everyone seems to think so. I've always just had a slight doubt. I mean, physically she looks a bit different, and she seems to be engaged with the man. However, this is a small issue compared to the issue of the man. If that's a reflection of Suzon, as most people seem to believe it is, then we should be able to see a man in front of us in the picture plane. So where is the man? Now, my first thought is that we are the man. We're trying to engage with Suzon. But then, when I found out that this was Manet's last ever painting, and that when he painted it, he knew that he was going to die, I started to wonder whether the man is actually meant to be Manet. Incidentally, the barmaids at the Folies-Bergère were known to spend the evening with lonely gentlemen in exchange for financial remuneration. Now, I don't want to make any accusative assumptions nor unsubstantiated assertions, but we know that Manet had enjoyed many nights partying at the bar at the Folies-Bergère. And maybe I'm getting off the point, maybe it doesn't matter, maybe I'm falling into the biographic trap that is so tempting with this painting. So let's come back to wonder. Most of all, I wonder whether Suzon is actually in the bar at the Folies-Bergère. Is her expression just a stare of jaded disenchantment, or is it one of escape? Is her mind in a place of authenticity where joy is real, where smiles are sincere, where happiness is palpable, and where affection is unfeigned? Maybe that's just my patriarchal male bias. Feminist art historians would certainly understand it as such. A number of feminist art historians have read a bar at the Folies-Bergère as a scene structured by the visual and social economies of the male gaze. Griselda Pollock argues that Manet's painting exposes rather than simply reproduces the commodification of the female body in late 19th century Paris. In Vision and Difference, Griselda Pollock situates Suzon within a wider culture of spectacle where women in cafes and concerts are simultaneously workers, objects of desire, and commodities within a masculine urban leisure economy. Now, the painting's sort of disjunctive mirror becomes for Pollock an instrument that reveals Suzon's position as both subject and object. She is physically present before us, yet the mirror repositions her as a commodity displayed for the male customer. And the mismatch between her front-facing pose and her reflected body, that sort of mismatch that I say, I'm not sure that that's actually a reflection of her, reflects a body that signals a split between her lived interiority, that's the inward, perhaps detached expression, and the outward identity inscribed upon her by the patriarchal structures of the Folies-Bergère. Now, in Pollock's hands, Manet becomes less a neutral observer and more a participant in an economy of gendered looking. T.J. Clark, somewhat unexpectedly, has been taken up by feminist scholars for his insight into class and labour in this painting. His work has prompted feminist expansions by scholars such as Tamar Garb. Now, Garb, in her book Bodies of Modernity, emphasises that Suzon is not simply an anonymous barmaid, but a working woman, negotiating the blurred boundaries between service, flirtation, and sexual availability in a modern capitalist entertainment industry. She highlights the painting's psychological tension. Suzon's inward expressions suggest resistance or withdrawal from the demands placed upon her. Feminist readings therefore frame the work as a study in the constrained agency of women whose bodies formed part of the spectacle of consumer modernity. and Garb sees the distorted mirror not as an optical puzzle, but as a metaphor for the distortion of female subjectivity under the pressures of urban modern life. So where Pollock foregrounds the structures of the gaze, Garb foregrounds the lived, labouring body, and both ultimately encourage us to read Suzon not as Manet's elegant cipher, but as a woman situated within a network of power, commerce and desire. And that shapes her image long before Manet ever picked up his brush. Now, in the next episode of Articulate, I'll look at the modern interpretations of Bar at the Folies-Bergère, particularly how it's been reworked in an arguably post-structuralist and gender-aware age. Now, this painting presents us with so many questions in the contemporary about the articulation of gender politics and the site of power or powers within that politic. And for me, the painting urges questions not so much about spectatorial gaze, but more about the gaze itself. What and where is Suzon's gaze? And why is Suzon's gaze? And whose gaze am I occupying in this process? And what does this indicate about wonder? And that's why I've titled this video Wonder, for the wonder presented by this piece is not merely formal, it's not merely object, it's not static, it changes as the viewer and their context changes. Thank you for joining me today on Articulate.